Hey guys, let me introduce you to the panel tonight. We're going to talk about the work in the Czech Republic and how are expats actually living here and how is it to be an expat here. I have Obin Wachuya here with me from Nigeria.
That's correct.
I have Rishi Sengupta, who has a Hong Kong citizenship but is Indian by origin.
That's right.
And I have Martin Sporish here from Manpower here, who is a headhunter focused on international recruitment, if I say it correctly. Yeah. So how is international headhunting for the Czech market?
You know, there is loads of challenges, of course, because if you want to bring people from the European Union, that's a tough market because they can go further to the west, because nobody really knows Czech Republic. So when we talking about European Union candidates, it's not that easy, but we can attract people from, you know, Russia, India, because there's loads of like US companies that you don't even have to speak Czech actually to get hired to, but you need to obtain the visa. So that's where the tricky part comes, because the labor market is not free. So that's why we are here, because the GoStudy, they can actually provide people from the third countries, you know, the Czech languages, courses, and they can bring them to universities. And as long as I know, if you finish the university in the Czech Republic, you get the residence, which will allow you, you know, to get any kind of job as a Czech citizen as well.
That's correct. That's correct. So, what was your story? I mean, you know, coming from Nigeria to Czech Republic must have been, you know, quite a journey. So, what were the challenges you came through and overcame?
Yeah, I mean, very interestingly, I wasn't planning to come to the Czech Republic, right? I left Nigeria and I moved to Spain to study. Okay. But I was recruited while I was in Spain.
To come to Czech Republic.
Yeah, exactly.
So what did you think about, you know, they called you up and say, come to the Czech Republic?
Yeah, I was like, give me a second, what's happening, right? It was my flatmate at the time. I was rounding up my master's degree, and he said, look, I found something. Would you be interested, or do you still want to go back home? Because that was the original plan.
So original plan was coming to Spain to study and then go back.
Home, yeah.
Okay.
So when the opportunity came for the Czech Republic, I was, of course, very skeptical. I had to do a ton of research. And I started comparing things like standard of living and how would people treat me, because I looked a bit different from the majority of the population. I moved down here, stayed for a week, just to kind of analyze and measure things for myself. I wasn't disappointed, so it wasn't like any struggle making the decision. Okay. But of course, I had a little challenge, which will be my passport. You know, I'm coming from Nigeria. It's different. It would probably be easier if it was for someone from the EU, like he had mentioned. So a few challenges going back and forth, applying for the visa, waiting for the confirmation. But I would say it was strict. It was easy for me to understand what was expected, what I had to do, and the time frames. So I just kind of followed through, and I got myself here.
No, that's very cool. That's a very nice story. And you know, how is it compared to your expectation? I mean, you did your research, and then you actually came. So what was the, you know, first and now, you know, your point of view of the Czech Republic?
I'm actually an ambassador now. If I have to use such a, I see myself as an ambassador. I mean, every good thing or every dream comes with a little form of challenge, right? So moving here, having to struggle with the language, I still have this memory of me missing my bus stops because I didn't know I had to press the bell when it was Zatavka and Znamení. You see, now I can say it, right? So those little challenges actually begins to grow the interest as you try to overcome one hurdle, then there is the next one. But all those things are necessary because you kind of
become feeling at home because you all know all the ways around.
Exactly, right? Yeah, and now I can prepare some Czech stuff like Knedlíky and the rest.
Oh, very cool. So you can cook and you're into that. That's very
nice. I mean, that's the first thing you need to do. Open your heart, embrace the place, and you're going to enjoy it. I am having a good time, I have to say that.
That's very nice to hear. And Rishi, your story is absolutely different. I mean, from what I hear, you came here to be a pilot.
Yes, that's correct. So, unlike Obi, I did my degree in the UK. I used to be a practicing lawyer back then I moved back to Hong Kong. And I used to work there doing headhunting and banking. You know, Hong Kong is obviously a banking area. Then after a while, I got a bit bored of working in the office. And you know, effectively, my grandfather was a pilot, and you know, I looked at several places in Europe, in the UK as well, but it was kind of cost restrictive. So literally, I just put in Google cheapest place to become a pilot, European Union, and Brno came up as you know, the main place. I looked at the cost of living, looked at the central location, because you know, Czech Republic, even though people say it's Eastern Europe, it's actually Central Europe. So you're right in the middle, which means you can travel around, and you know, everything else, the weather, and it's you know, much better here than anything else. And yeah, so I just moved here back in November of 2016, and I did my pilot's license down in Brno. And after I finished that, I moved up to here, Prague, and yeah, started working here. Started working for a company called Nonstop Consulting, doing recruitment work previously as well. And as Obi says, you know, there's always challenges. There was good things and bad things. Price of beer.
That's the good one or a bad one?
That's a good one.
Okay.
Good and bad, depending on the person. Obviously, language is a bit of an issue. Again, you know, doing the pilot course, everything is done in English, so didn't really need to. It's much easier. The control tower speaks English to you, so on and so forth. So I didn't really have to learn it. I knew that I will have to, because I plan to live here for the foreseeable future. So I've started doing like language courses, but you know, the basics, you know, ordering a beer, ordering a taxi, those are the main ones that I know off by heart. But so far, I mean, the people that I've met here have been absolutely fantastic. There are certain things that people do say, like, you know, Czechs can be a bit cold, but I don't think so. I think it's just, you know, just breaking down, you know, there's the difference between Moravians and Bohemians as well.
It is, yeah.
You know, and they say like Bohemians are more open than Moravians, vice versa. You know, it's that rivalry that goes on. And I think both, you know, they're much more welcoming than anyone else that I've met so far, you know, throughout my travels as well. And, you know, it's just once you become friends with them, they're your friends as well. So and it's fantastic for that.
That's so cool. Martin, when, you know, people come to the Czech Republic, what is the, you know, main thing that you hear then in the office that they need to arrange, or, you know, that they see as a problem, or that they appreciate? What is the...
Well, I'd say that the first question might be, where's the best club to go to, you know, when we talk about a Prague. But obviously, as those two guys mentioned, the first step is always the hardest, you know. So I think the people are a little bit too scared of the Czech Republic, because they don't really know. Because if you talk about Europe, everybody is like, oh, Germany, UK. But then if you actually keep digging, you'll find Czech Republic as probably the best country to be at, because when you compare the salaries, the rents, and the beer costs, you know, we are number one.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have sea, we don't have the beaches, we don't have sun 9 months in the year, but I think we're pretty good when it comes to, you know, life balance.
And, you know, when the expats come with the families, and, you know, more senior people come as well, do they see Czech Republic as a great place to live? And is it fun?
I would love to say I believe so, because they at the end they decided to come here, so it's very, you know, family friendly. The Prague, I would say it evolved, because it wasn't always like that, you know, like you would go to Old Town Square and you wouldn't even hear English, but nowadays you go there and you don't hear Czech, because you see the expats and the tourists, and now you don't even know which one is which one, because there is like, I did some digging before this interview, and there is like 12% of the labor market are expats.
Oh, that's quite high.
Which is quite high number. And on the other hand, you don't have to speak Czech if you want to come here and work here. So I think these are the pros.
So you're not getting
Coming
the
to
phone
Czech
calls
Republic.
3 months to 6 months, hey, get me out of here? I mean,
Nah, never.
that's actually very good. So speaking about culture and how is it different? So how is it different? And I'm not even between Nigeria and Europe. I mean, there are vast differences. Having lived in Africa, I can appreciate some of those, but I think that the most different is you've obviously traveled a lot. How is Czech Republic special? How's the people here? How is the society? What do you appreciate?
Yeah, I mean, when you begin to compare culture, and I'm going to take you back to the reaction of people, right? You were right, I did travel a lot. I am still traveling extensively. But comparing it to some of the European places or cities that I've been to or lived, there are fewer people like me, which means there's going to be a bit of that gap with people either being scared because they do not know what to expect, or because they are already just being curious because, oh, wow, this is an opportunity for me to get to see someone like this, right? So I built my mindset around that because I didn't want to take offense to everything that someone did, because I'd liked to look at that action to be coming from one of those 2 points, either curiosity or ignorance. And if it's ignorance or curiosity, I take the opportunity to say, hey, listen, I'm just like you. This is where I come from, and what are you willing to learn?
So you're
right?
also an ambassador for your culture. And
I think that's the best way that we all can coexist. It doesn't even have to just be in the Czech Republic, right? So there are lots of things that I do that are slightly like, oh, what's that, right? And there are things that they do, and I'm like, really?
So the surprise is from both parts.
From both sides. So when you talk about the cultural integration, I think when you move to the Czech Republic, or if you move to a different country, it's important for you to come with an open heart, right? Do not take offense at everything because it might just be a norm, right? Someone could actually be happy that they see you, and you'll be like, why are you staring at me, right? So those are the things that anybody that's coming to the Czech Republic needs to build their mindset around, not even just the Czech Republic, like everywhere. And I think when you say cultural integration, it's me learning how to pronounce Hiji, Kenedli, and all of those. And
So you're learning Czech?
Yeah, not like I'm learning Czech, but I try to get the basic things that will save me in case of an emergency. But it's not the easiest language.
So that's going to be Knedlik.
It is definitely not. Yeah.
And so I try to pick up most of the necessary ones, but hopefully with time I might just confess one day for the mayor. That's if my Czech is good enough.
Exactly. Have you come to an emergency? I mean, while you've been here?
I've not particularly, unless you're talking about flying around and having an emergency in the airplane. But I mean, yeah, there were one time that I had to call the police because of some issues back in Brno. But when the police arrived, they were courteous. They spoke English. I called the 112 number rather than the local one. And I'll be honest, I've had the police at my flat a few times for noise complaints as well. But there has been some language issues. Talking about that, I would just go promin, yes, okay, thank you, bye, that sort of thing. But so far, I've not had any real emergencies in terms of when it came to dealing with the authorities, except for when dealing with the foreign police. But that's a whole
different story.
It's a whole different story.
They're difficult everywhere. But in terms of security, do you guys feel safe here? I mean, walking night and just basically living in the country, or do you feel?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've had plenty of times where I walked home in the middle of the night. It's with any city, as long as you're smart about it. It could be the same in Barcelona or Berlin. Just when you're out, and if you're alone, just use your common sense. But so far, I've not had any unsavory characters come up to me or anything of that.
Right. So you're saying that you are looking to stay here for the foreseeable future. So why Czech Republic? I mean, you came here because it was cheap to make a pilot's license, right? But why did you stay?
Well, again, because of the people and the central location as well. And again, cost of living is another thing. I mean, I'm planning, hopefully, obviously with this corona situation, let's see, but to possibly work for Lufthansa, for example, or DHL. Right, and Lufthansa and DHL both have hubs in the south of Germany. So Leipzig for DHL and Lufthansa, they have Munich. And it's a short drive from Prague to there. So I was thinking, why not live here while having a...
And go for the...
Yeah, exactly.
That's very cool.
Having a German salary and then living here.
That's a dream, isn't
That's
it?
a
Nailed it. That's the dream.
Yeah.
Do you see that actually going on, that, you know, people consider living here, but, you know, working somewhere else? Or?
I mean, Czech people do it, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, they live in Liberec, in Pilsner, and they just go like 30 minutes to work in Germany, get the German salary and come back. But in this particular part, I think I haven't crossed anyone who would be like, let's say, from the UK, living in the Czech Republic and going to Germany for work.
I mean, Rishi is very special in this particular thing, but I think that what is very common is once the foreigners actually come here, they're looking to stay longer term, aren't they?
They are, because actually they must, because if they finish the university, they'll get the residence, right? But not all of them knows that it only allows them to enter the labor market within the Czech Republic. Because sometimes they might think that since we are the European Union country and they finish the union here, after the university they can go to Germany and start working there, but that's actually not true, because they only get the residence for the Czech Republic. So if they want to go to Germany, they would have to finish another university in there probably. But I believe with the experience as a pilot, the company will help you to obtain the visa.
That's where I was going for. I mean, either you study more or you get intercompany transfer, right? And there is many international companies. I mean, how did you come across working for IBM? I mean,
I'm going to answer that question, but just to add to what he has said, if you're good enough and you can prove it, there are lots of companies in the Czech Republic that are willing to go heads on for you. They are willing to give you the visa support and all of that. And that's how I came here, right?
So the company took care of everything.
they helped me arrange the whole documentations and said, okay, this is what you need, and this is where you should go to and start this process. And they also had, they had a special team just working for foreigners.
That's impressive.
Right. So if you can prove yourself and you can really show, it's not always about where you're coming from or the school or whatever. It's about you being open to that growth. You know, companies here like to hire people. I'm not an expert.
And
like
the
you.
motivation as well.
Yeah, I'm not an expert like you, but what I have seen so far is that they like to see that people are driven, and they probably have a few experiences around what they want. And if you can prove that, there are lots of English-speaking companies. Like he said, I work for IBM. It's an American company. And most of these guys are out there looking for skills. So if people are good, the companies really, really go into the whole process for you.
Do you see that along with your clients, that the clients are prepared, to offer, assistance?
100%, because at the end of the day, the world is a small place, and the Czech Republic, we are a tiny country as well. So if you're looking for the, motivated people, you just can't focus on the local market. You just have to spread and go abroad. And if you find the right candidate in Nigeria, in India, or in Australia, you will do everything in your powers to obtain the visa for them. So,
and the companies are looking to help with that and sponsor the visas and everything else, right?
Because if they don't and they leave everything on the candidate, they usually drop, because they don't know which paper they need to fill in, which bureaucracy or like which department to go to and submit the papers. So you need to guide them through the process if you want them to come.
Yeah, I think that it would be difficult to go through the foreign police and all the process alone without the support of the company, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, I had, when I first moved here, I had the support from the school. Because it's a little bit different than the university, because it's not an accredited program. So you don't get a degree per se. at the end of it. So it's more of a vocational training. So in that sense, the visa that I got, for example, it was a long-term residence visa, not a student visa.
Yep.
And for that, again, you need more paperwork. You need to show you have enough more funds in your, in your bank statements, so on and so forth. And for that, yeah, I mean, I got some of the required documents from them. So, a letter of acceptance from the program. They were kind enough to give me the proof of accommodation. As well, and then the rest of the things that I actually had to learn and go by myself. But luckily, the Czech embassy in Hong Kong is quite nice, and they were quite patient with me. But then once I submitted all the documents, it took me about a week and a half to get the.
That's quite impressive, actually. I'm talking about accommodation. How do you find it here? I mean, do you guys live? In a flat, or did you live in a student accommodation? Was it hard for you to find it initially? And how is it actually, living here and finding that?
Okay, I'm going to make a few references back and forth because I think I already mentioned it. Actually, before I moved here, I started looking for accommodation online, right? And one thing that was obvious to me from that beginning, which was the reason I actually came over and tried to stay for a week, was the fact that most of the people I tried to talk to online were scared of me. They were like, okay, he's different. Do we want to give him this, right? So I did experience some challenges with that. But I came to the Czech Republic. I stayed in a hotel for almost 2 weeks. But I was able to get a flat on the third week because I had to work with an agency. But I don't think it's that severe anymore because now there are a lot of people like me and people are beginning to open up a bit more. I mean, we're talking about 3 to 4 years. And when I first got here, I was in Brno, actually. So it's not like in Prague. But these days, back then I could walk on the street and I could count how many people looked like me. But these days there are a lot and people are like, okay, it's just another one. And most of the people that are coming from Africa are actually coming here to either study or work. So I think we've kind of built a good reputation for ourselves so far that it's easier for us to get that accommodation.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But it took me, I think, 3 weeks as well, to get a recommendation and to live in Barcelona. So I think that you were quite lucky within that time period because that I would say even for a Czech person, you don't select a flat under 3 weeks.
Yeah, I did. Because I at the last point, I was like, okay, am I just going to keep staying in the hotel? And I just went and got an agency and it was easy.
I would say it's the most challenging part actually because you're coming from abroad, you're coming to the country that you don't know, but even before getting there, you need to have, you need to have place that you're gonna stay. I mean, you just go online and you're like, oh, do I like this flat?
I mean, if you're coming alone, it's way easier than if you're coming with a family because obviously then you have to make a group decision and that may take even longer because, I mean, what you might like not necessarily is what everybody else does, right?
Exactly.
So that's slightly more challenging. So, guys, I'm curious about how is the move from Brno to Prague? So those are two different cities, and obviously you mentioned some rivalry there, and I'm just curious about your experience.
Well, my experience, I mean, as I said, I lived in Brno for almost 3 years now. I moved to Prague March 15th, actually. So one day before the one day before the lockdown. So obviously, initially the first 3 months. I was under house arrest, effectively, like everyone else. But so far, I mean, I've had the opportunity during the summertime when the lockdown was, lifted, to explore the city. And I have to say, there is a lot more to do here, actually, than in Brno. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Brno. I love the people there. Every time I go back, people, if I'm walking along the street, people are like, oh, hey, how are you doing? How's Prague? People do remember me. But after 3 years of living in Brno, it was time for me to sort of move back to a little bit of a bigger city. as well. And I would say, I mean, both places have their ups and downs, their perks. Brno, if you're coming from a larger city like Hong Kong, where I came from, I wanted somewhere quiet and peaceful, you know, get away from the rat race, as it would be. And that place is perfect. It's close to nature. There's, you know, you've got parks everywhere. You drive within 20 kilometers or 20 minutes. You've got the vineyards in the south. You're not too far away from Vienna as well. You can take a day trip to Vienna if you would like. But yeah, I mean, and whereas in Prague, you've got more other things to do, like clubs being one of them. More variety of restaurants, I would say, as well. And you know, even in the 6 months, even with the lockdown, I've only probably properly just explored my Catestrel. So, I mean, except for Prague 1, and that's the only place that I know. But there's so many other places that, you know, I'm still waiting to see.
I keep the fingers crossed. I mean, Martin, how is it in terms of working between those two cities, right? Because Brno is trying to build up this reputation of the Central European Silicon Valley with a lot of technological companies and a lot of research going on and universities supporting that. Whereas Prague, obviously, you know, is the hub where all the expats live, and you know, it's.
I mean, yeah, if you go abroad and you wanna bring people to Czech Republic, the easiest way is to say Prague. it's the cosmopolitan city. But Brno, I think they're keeping up pretty good, because as far as I know, we've got some clients in there as AT&T, which is a US company. The IBM is there as well. So I think they've got the universities as well. So I think they are building this reputation that's gonna help them and be there. I don't think they'll reach Prague in terms of universities and the headquarters of the companies, but I think they're on a good track.
And in terms of international people which you don't talk to, right? So I mean, we always are a headhunter, so you look for people. Hey, would you be interested in coming in? But if you're an international student and you're looking for a job, is that something you would find difficult, or?
I don't think so. I think as long as you finish the uni, then you just choose outside. You just choose the field and the company that you would love to work for. And if the company is in Prague or in Brno, I don't think it really matters. Then I would say it depends on the individuality, whether they want to move. Because for Czech people, it's not really common to go from Prague to Brno because they want to move for the work. But the whole world actually does it, For the US people, they're from the, Los Angeles, and they go to New York just like this. But Czech people, I'd say they are not there yet. They are not that open-minded when it comes to, switching the jobs and moving 200 kilometers.
Yeah, that's nothing, in that context.
It is nothing. It is nothing, but.
Well, I was just talking with a friend, and he said, like, guys, you have so many opportunities. I mean, Berlin is 500 kilometers away, Paris 800. Just like it's very close by. And I'm like, well, close by. So,
That's
it's very a relative how you view the distance. And I think that from traveling perspective and the leisure time, I think you take advantage of that, won't you?
Of course. Like he said, we got there first. I think I did spend more time in Vienna, like during the off period, than coming to Prague. So when I landed in Brno, Vienna was just behind me, and I could go to Salzburg. I could just move around a lot. But even when you come to Prague, it's literally the same thing, because from Prague there are a ton of flights leaving every day, every week, outside the lockdown period. So I mean, from here you can go to anywhere. I think the rivalry he mentioned is normal. Barcelona has it with Madrid, and every major city has that. People are like, oh, it's too much for me, and some people are like, oh, it's like perfect for me. So you always have the city. It's like a little brother. You always choose, how hot or cold you want it. So, but for me, I think it's both of them are fine. And
you're planning to stay in the Czech Republic for a longer term?
Yes, like I said, the first thing I've done is that I've opened my mind. I don't want to say if marriage happens, but
okay.
You have me on record now. But that's how open I am, right? I've already had the discussions with my family back home. I am actually the only person who is not, in Nigeria, and I'm telling them, guys, I am fine. If anybody wants to move here, I'm willing to show you the path that I took, and it's clear. So I might not be coming home very soon, but just know that I am fine.
So what would be the, if you were a marketing guy, what would be the, tagline for the Czech Republic, why people should actually come here and,
Well, that's a very interesting question. I mean, at least for me, I would say, it's if you're, because I think the Czech Republic has everything for anyone. Honestly, like for example, I'm into a bit of history as well, historical buildings, because in Hong Kong you don't have that many. Everything's demolished to make way for yeah, exactly, for high-rise buildings and so on. So I used to love going to all the the castles as well, because if you're into that, they've got that. There is nature. If you're into hiking, you can go to Český Raj, for example, go hiking there, or Bohemian Switzerland, you can go there. You can go skiing up north if you want to do that as well. So there's myriad of things to do. So I would, as a marketing standpoint, I would say, you can see basically the whole world in a nutshell in the Czech Republic.
It's very kind of you to say that.
That's nice to hear, yeah.
From a Czech person, actually.
Yeah, no, it's a
very nice
I
perspective.
I think so as well. Yeah.
Because we take it for granted, right? But if somebody like you come here and he's like, you guys have everything, it's nice to hear.
So how are you guys selling the country, except for, come to Prague?
Actually, I would say the diversity, because he just said it, because at the end, we actually do have it all, unless the sea. We don't have the sea, but like you can go skiing, you can go swim in the lakes, you can see the Charles Bridge, we've got the universities, and plus, I would say the best selling point is the balance between the work and your life that you can have after work. And what I like to say is like, do we have the best salaries in here? I say we don't. Do we have the worst salaries? No, we don't, but we have the cheapest beer, right? So that is the good selling point as well. And
It's a topic of priorities, huh?
yeah. No, because it depends on the individual, like everyone can find everything in here.
What they're
like
looking
what they're looking for, yeah.
So how are you selling the country to your folks back home? I mean,
like you said, I like when people come to Prague for the first time or to Brno, I say when you're walking on the street, keep your eyes up because the buildings always have something interesting, right? So yeah, if you appreciate art and history, that's something amazing. But like I've said, I'm not feeling like I need to run away, right? So which means it's comfortable. I am not saying it's the best thing that ever happened to me or the worst thing that ever happened to me, but I think, I believe that you can have a well-balanced life here. Comparing it to Barcelona or to New York and everything, yeah, you have that opportunity to live a moderate life on an average salary when comparing it to other cities, of course, and you can definitely get whatever you want. I mean, I still have access to some Nigerian food, so.
so you feel at home. Guys, I think that's a very good point to end the discussion. I thank you very much for the time you took to talk to me today. I think that we've heard a lot about the whole market and how the expats live and what's the experience, and thank you for showing your experiences, and from a professional perspective as well. Thank you for the time you took.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having
Thanks,
me.
guys.